finally we got to a point where the elephant in the room, or elephants in the room, have been addressed, and you gotta have to forgive me as I am losing my voice and getting a little bit sick. So it's gonna be a fairly quick video as far as to share my thoughts and my opinions and see if we can get a discussion going on, because I know at this point, I mean, they released this pretty early in the morning. I was still knocked out, so there's nothing much I can say about that. But a lot of people have been giving their opinions, and as well as their thoughts and predictions as far as the future and what else should be touched. But as far as this goes, if you haven't seen it already, this is an update to the February 2009, or as of February 2009, it's going to be in effect, banned enlist cards as far as the game goes itself. So they were saying thank you for the continued support. They were just addressing Storm itself, or 1-2 swap. Shout out to 3xG for getting that name out there and making sure that it's implanted forever from Bandai's mouth themselves. They were saying that it remains a very difficult archetype to beat unless you're actually countering it, or making sure to counter it, like putting cards in your deck to actually counter it. And that they already added some other cards to combat that, but it didn't really do anything, right? And they may feel like the matchup is hopeless and stop playing the game. That is very much true. Anybody who plays Storm at locals will always be ridiculed. That means you, Eddie. This is what you did. So the ban cards went from Legendary Flute 0 to 1, or 1 to 0, and then Scrambling Assault Goten is completely banned itself, which is interesting. But we'll talk through that. Another thing is that the limited cards, which hurts my soul, is the Unyielding Spirit Trunks going to 1 instead of 4, and then the 3-drop Cell going to 1 instead of 4 as well. If you want my too long didn't watch sort of summary, this is the way I felt when I saw Storm getting hit. And then I scrolled down and saw that Cell was getting hit, and this is how I felt as well. It's a bummer, but yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. But the other part of it is that as far as a too long didn't watch kind of summary, I do want to start an untapped tourney with these new restrictions, and as well as the meta itself, to see how it is. Definitely go and join the Discord in the link below, or with the link below, and you'll see all the information there. I'll post it and make sure that's all out there. So let's talk through the cards. So I personally don't think this is too much of a big deal. We were going through months and weeks, really, talking about Storm, or 1-2 swap, and how basically if you just added the Bardock or slash swap package with Goten, you basically make any deck that runs yellow really good. And that's because you basically pay for 1, and you have 2 attackers that nix you 2 cards, 1 from your life and as well as 1 from the top 3. And that's, I mean, automatically, as long as you have 1, 2, 3 energy, you can do a lot of damage as far as that goes. And along with a blue leader and spirit, Unyielding Spirit Trunks, it just makes that even better. With the Legendary Flute going to 0, I can kind of understand that, because now blue doesn't have something specifically that does something for free, and as well as does it really well, like 3 or less, and drawing a card, either drawing your own after returning your own, and as well as returning theirs as far as a blocker or whatever. It just comes down to an RNG battle, and it's just not that great. I think people are thinking with Gogeta and as well as Chain Attack, which I'm going to go into in a little bit, we're going to be in an RNG sort of meta, but I don't believe that. As far as the limited cards, Unyielding Spirit Trunks was one of the ones that I spoke about a long time ago. We always talked about it, even when trying to build tournaments locally and as well as for Untap. We were talking about like banning or limiting Unyielding Spirit Trunks. And so the thing about this is that it not only hits Storm, but it really hits aggro. And I think really Bandai wants everything as far as Cell Chain and everything else to go back to that mid-range sort of like big bad monsters sort of meta, and as well as deck in overall design is concerned. With this one, because it is free on your turn and can untap any energy as long as your leader card is blue, I think it is really strong. And I think going forward, we're going to see a different card that does the same thing, but is not as strong. So like cost 1 or something, or as long as you're at 4 or less life, you can do that. Or I don't know, like if it's not blue, then it might be something else like green or red or something like that, right? It might even get a black card where we can untap any energy as long as we meet a certain condition. So I mean, I think that's another thing to kind of consider. I'm just very disappointed that, you know, going to February, not only for ARG Vegas and future types of events, we're probably not going to see too much aggro when it comes down to it. But I will discuss like other decks that really, you know, this doesn't really affect that much, and we can still be affected in that, or effective in that. Now the 3-drop cell, I'm very sad about this as an Android player, but at the same time I kind of see where they were going. They're really getting rid of all the free or low cost things that really are oppressive, right? With him, all you really need is a Android 17. You get a 5-drop, which is the usually the evolving cell, and then you pop something and draw something. The value from that, just having 3 energy and then going into cell chain to drop your hand to 3 at turn 3 is really hard. It's really impressive, right? Now the other thing is that I'm not too worried about this. One, you can still play it, it's not banned, you just have to draw into it. The other thing is that I think the Super 17 chain, it automatically replaces this, so the 3-drop sort of curve with the Hellfighter into the 4-drop into the 6-drop, it's more to actually get that out, but it makes more sense. And I think as we go into more and more sets, and I'll talk about this when I talk about Shenron, they're releasing more and more cards that kind of replace previous things that they thought were a little too powerful, right? And I think that's sort of like them saying, okay, we messed up here, but this is how we're making it better. This is what the replacement is. And I think Hellfighter 17 is that replacement. So we play the Hellfighter 17, we still get to pop something with a 4-drop, and then it sort of sits there for 4 energy to get the 6 out, and then after that you can play the 5 energy for the 5-drop cell, and then into cell chain. So I mean, that's the thing. It's probably better that way to see it as a finisher, the 7-drop into 3, just like how Hero Revived is, and I think that's where the design is going. This is still at 1, so it's not impossible to play like Jaro or something like that to actually search it out and do it that way too. And if you're feeling lucky, I mean, you can always just play the Super 17 leader, burst him out, and then just get power overseeing time with him. Also, do I agree with people using Cell's Birth? Not really. I don't think that's really the case, or the thing that you should be or the direction you should be taking it. I think you should take the direction of like 17 and 18 still has a lot of good targets, from the Ultimate Box 17, the Turner Power 17, the Deadly Duos, etc., where they're still cheap, very effective androids where you can fill the board up and then start attacking, hand denial, etc. So I mean, I think there's a reason for that, so that way you kind of fill up the curve with more androids, play them out, and then play cell chain or whatever else chain you want to do. Another part of that is that Super 17, you know, like I said, you can still do the Super 17 chain. That was still a thing as far as like making sure to do that. And then at the 5 energy cost, you can still go ahead and play the 5-drop into cell chain, and then awaken and untap too. So I mean, if this, and this is what I'm trying to get to, where as we get into a sort of mid-range, late game sort of meta, without aggro and less aggro, that is, I think it's easier to survive at that point and then continue those type of plays. I do like what they're saying, Growing Evil Lifeform Cell isn't using Storm decks, but we're just gonna go ahead and hit it anyway. So, but I see what it was. It's, you know, there's a lot of feedback that a lot of people try to give as far as this kind of free, very cheap, very powerful sort of chain and slash effect. And I see why, you know, I definitely see why. And their intentions, as far as like making sure to add them to the list, is to drop down the lack of variety that we have as we continue, or allow for continued development of interesting cards for players to enjoy and focus attention on new cards and play strategy. So that's what I was saying. It's just like everything sort of changes as far as the curve goes, but nothing really changed as far as other decks go. So I mean, when we're talking through aggro, obviously we still have Borgos and the which by the way isn't really effective too much other than Sensu Bean now. We also do have the 2-drop feature rare Sterile, and I think people are forgetting that is a very powerful card. Like when we have all of these battle cards at 1 and 2 that are really good, like Quick West Trunks and Intensifier Power Trunks, the Dark Power Mad Saiyan Kaba, the Newfound Power, etc. These are all very, very good cards that still can be played, and that directly hurts aggro than it does for anything else. And I think that's something that I really don't agree with, but hopefully in the future we can have some answers to that, or at least some way to play it better. Like if you're playing red and not yellow to tap it with the Frieza, then you really don't have a choice but to work around. And again, like other decks like Mass Saiyan, Sun Gohan, Wish Gohan, etc., even Huragan and some other decks that can have some sort of like aggro or filling the board into aggro, like Pan or Yamcha or etc., still are valuable options as far as like, you know, putting on pressure early on and making sure to beat your opponent down. The other thing is that, again, I was trying to think, and other people were trying to say like, you know, what about Shenron? What about Gogeta Hero Revived? Right? I think Hero Revived is still a very annoying card to deal with, but the other part of it is that we all know about it, right? We all are aware of what it does. We all are aware if we see a vanilla Goku and another vanilla Vegeta, or the same power of Vegeta and Goku in their energy or drop, then we're kind of expecting a Gogeta, right? And we've been giving answers as far as like Deadly Defenders and other counters that counter it. The real issue is that people are really going to the Dragon Ball or Shenron as far as the leader and Gogeta, and I think that's where the problem lies in for that. I would have rather have Shenron be hit before Gogeta, and I was saying earlier that, you know, I think that's probably the next one. I think the way that Bandai kind of thinks is that, okay, we're gonna make these changes, we're gonna go ahead and have these events, either a regional or ARG or PPG or whatever, and see what kind of results there are, and as well as play tests internally, and then see what happens. And I think if we see a lot of Shenron Gogeta or Shenron variants or whatever, we're probably gonna see some sort of way getting this touched, or this card getting touched a lot, and even banned. So like the other part of it is that Purunga, people were saying like, okay, this is literally a worse Shenron. So okay, that's the point. That is literally the point. The point of it is that they came out with Purunga as a copy of Shenron, but as it should have been designed in the first place. So I think the triple attack for Shenron is pretty busted for any card. It doesn't have to be Gogeta, but the Gogeta is one of the most impressive cards for that. But for Purunga, I think the effect for that is balanced, but still have all the effects that Dragon Ball had in the first place, or Shenron had in the first place. So I feel that, you know, if they're gonna hit Dragon Ball and ban it, then Purunga is gonna be the replacement, and they're gonna be like, hey, you still have Purunga. As far as Gogeta goes, I mean, really, Gogeta, again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that he is technically a problem. As soon as he came out and we started playtesting him, it was very interesting to see the effects of him. I think with all of the lack of aggro that kind of puts things in check, like Shenron early game, in order to breed them down very like a lot of life, so that way they don't have to take that life, or they can't take that life at 1, or they don't want to at 2 in case something fails and you draw into a counter or Mafuba, whatever it may be. I think that's kind of the thing where Hero Revive itself is very powerful as a game ender, right? That 5 energy curve is exactly where they want games to end, so that way they have a balance between a slow game and a fast game, and still have the options for people to have variety in it. Again, the issue is really Shenron getting that triple attack and critical, so I think that's really what we need to consider as far as anything before even considering Gogeta being touched. Now, I don't really have any other complaints or anything else as far as that goes, like for banned or limited lists. Everything that's been touched, I completely agree with, and now we have answers to everything else, so it's not that big of a deal for me. Now again, like you got to realize that we still have other leaders to play in pretty much every color as we go into the new meta. We like really Broly, even without the swap mechanic, is still pretty impressive. Like he is still a really good leader. Dende making moves as far as having some variety as a Shenron leader or slash Witch leader. We still have all of these Frieza army cards or leaders that haven't really been explored, and is kind of saddening as far as that goes. So hopefully people can kind of open their eyes and get a little creative and go back into a control sort of mindset. We still have all of the set 6 cards that for green that automatically make any of these green leaders really good. Lord Slug is still a really good candidate for hand destruction for set 6. So when we do get into that, it's gonna be very interesting to see people finding that out. Blue leaders now are like, without unyielding and a few other options like Flute, are a little bit more balanced as far as that goes, but they still have a lot of other things like Vegito and inherently really good leaders in blue. So something like Janemba, something like the new Gogeta, something like Huragan, and as well as the old movie promo Gogeta. I mean, those are the type of things that we have to kind of consider of like, we still have really good leaders, we still can do a lot of different things. And not to mention all the red leaders, of course, but not to mention we still have all of the support like Baby Vegeta, which is really good, by the way, for the turn 2, turn 3 triple tech ape that draws you a card every time it attacks and something plays and kills it. Same thing for Huragan, same thing for Path of Greatness, etc, etc. So we have a lot of different things coming out that are going to stabilize and sort of show their faces as far as something being useful and into the meta. And not only that, is that we are going to see more cards. Like set 6 is not going to be the last set ever, right? So if we're going to replace the 3-drop or unyielding or whatever, it could go from the 3-drop to a 4-drop, in which your life has to be at 6 or less or whatever, or 4 or less, whatever it may be. Or if you have 4 or more energy, unyielding, like I said, could have a different cost as far as, you know, if your opponent has like 3 or 4 battle cards or something in rest mode, you can only do this. I don't know, there's a lot of different options for this. And again, Goten, without the Goku lineage tag, it could be a completely different card. So we just have to kind of open our eyes and make sure that we don't miss the obvious things and not be too emotional about it. I'm very good. I'm still a little bit emotional about the 3-drop being hit, but oh well, I will get over it and we will move on. But let me know what you think as far as all of these changes go. Let me know if you liked it, disliked it, disagree, agree. Join the Discord in the bottom of the description, so that way you can participate in the next tourney, and I will see you in the next one. Later.